Lessons learned since going public. What are your takeaways?
Well, go public when you're ready. I mean, we're naturally proud of the business that we built over 14 years. We had 10 years of profitability. I think we had kind of sound fundamentals, and I think that was well received on the market when we went public. And so, I think to companies that are considering taking that step, be ready.
So, Alex, it was one of the worst years for tech IPOs since the recession. What are investors saying to you about what to look for in 2017 and what the market will look like?
Frankly, and I was telling Jay this earlier, people are waiting for another company that does look like Atlassian. We've had some big consumer names like Snapchat and Spotify, according to our sources. They're looking to go next year, but they won't make up the majority of the number of companies that will actually go out. And so a lot of the enterprise world companies that sell to businesses, those are the ones we're going to be paying attention to. And after this really rocky year, investors have been saying we want more than just revenue growth. We want profitability as well. It's less risky, and we're more willing to take a bet on it on the valuations that the companies want to see. So those are going to be a lot of the factors that play into 2017. And frankly, Emily, for the whole kind of funding environment, private and public, we really need to see a good year because investors need to know they can actually make money off of getting in these companies either pre or post IPO.
Now, Jay, Atlassian was profitable for 3 years before it went public, which is unusual in that we talk about so many companies that are already public and are still not profitable. Do you think that companies should wait until they are profitable? What would your advice be?
We were profitable for 10, not 3 years prior, but I think it really depends on the company. I mean, every single company is unique. I think companies that kind of have a model and a perspective on when they can return cash to investors or cash to the business, free cash flow, I think as long as they can articulate that and they've got a model that they have experience with or they have line of sight to, they're probably ready. In our case, we demonstrated profitability, so the model that we were going to telegraph to public investors, we'd already demonstrated.
So, Alex, interestingly, Australia bucked the slow IPO trend in that the number of deals actually went up from 2015 to 2016. What's behind that?
It's got to be looking for that homegrown investor that buys into the story. Again, if you look at U.S. markets, where a lot of companies do like to list because there's a deep investor base, there's a lot of comparables, and we know that that's important when you're pricing these listings. Potentially, because of the volatility this year, because of the risk-off atmosphere that investors had basically until Labor Day, looking to a local market is probably not a bad idea. And there was Australia. You also saw it with Line listing domestically in Tokyo and also in the U.S., and that was a very large listing. So the dynamics of the U.S. market, some of the concerns around Brexit in London, which is another big venue for listings, potentially is driving some of these companies to look to their home market first.
Now, Jay, talk to us a little bit about what your new product roadmap looks like and where you see the most growth potential.
Well, our focus is on teams broadly inside of every business, and so our ambition is to have every worker inside of every company using an Atlassian product every day. Teams need to track and manage work, create and share content, and communicate in real time. And our roadmap is focused on expanding our products, Jira, Confluence, and HipChat, to support those core needs of teamwork.
What changes do you see in the enterprise software market over the next few years? Obviously, we've seen, big players like Microsoft and even Facebook try to take on this market. Facebook starting its own Facebook at Work. Do you think big tech companies will be as successful as, smaller homegrown companies like yours?
I think that remains to be seen. Certainly, they're worth watching. I do think what's more interesting is sort of the blend of consumer tech and consumer expectations and consumer usability into enterprise technology. That's been happening for a while. Our products, as an example, demonstrate things that I think people entering the workforce today, as young people in the workforce would expect: the ability to @mention someone, or the ability to see a list of activity through a feed. Those kinds of things, I think, in the way that we use technology on a personal basis, needs to move into the workforce faster than it has.